So once again, I am here with a new video for you all, and the topic of this video is water resources. And this is one of the most important chapters in your board syllabus. Especially this is you can say individual unit for the board exam. So certain chapters are there in your syllabus which are taken as one unit. So if you prepare that particular chapter, you are going to prepare one complete unit. That is, in your board exam, you will be getting 10 marks question on each unit. So if you prepare this chapter fully, this is a very easy chapter, and I promise if you go through this video and try to understand each and everything, you will prepare yourself well for your exams, right? And before I start, I must remind you before we start, I must remind you, do subscribe the channel, and once you subscribe it, also press the bell icon so that you will get further notifications regarding any video if it is uploaded on the channel. And don't forget to share the link of this video with your friends and classmates, right? So let's start with it now. Regarding water resources, if you think of it in that way, suppose if we say the earth is a watery planet, what does that mean? Because the earth is covered with water on almost 70-71% of its area, right, of its surface is covered with water, and that's why we also call it as a watery planet. What about that 70-71% of water which is covering its surface? Out of that, children, 97%, if we take the total water which is present on earth, 97% almost is there in the oceans. So if we just take it out, suppose 97% is there in the ocean or the seas. So why we are concerned for that? Because 97% of the total water is of no use for us, right? No use for us means, in that way I'm saying that we cannot drink it, we cannot use it for irrigation purpose or any such use, right, for our daily use. So that 97% we are taking away. Now what is left with us? Just 3% of it. Out of that 3% also, 2.3% out of that total 3%, right? Out of that also 2.3% is found in the form of you can say ice cap or the glaciers, right, over the polar regions. So that is again a part of it which we cannot use. Now what is left with us after taking out that 2.3% also? What is left now? That is 0.7%, and that 0.7% is available with us, right? And from that also 0.66% is present in the form of underground water, which is also called as groundwater. 0.66% of that total, what is available for us for our use, 0.66% is again present in the form of underground water. And the left out part, that is 0.03%, just 0.03% of water which is there with us is on the earth's surface, what we can say as the surface water. It is present in the form of river, it is present in the form of pond, lakes and all that. 0.03% of that water which is present with us, that is actually used in different ways. Whether it is for irrigation, whether it is for drinking purpose, whether it is for the various other uses, right? And moreover, children, you should actually check all these things. Out of all this part of water which is present with us, a major part of it is actually getting affected by pollution. That is why it is urgent need to conserve water. We are going to discuss about all that in this chapter. especially the different water sources what we are getting here, right? Different means how we are getting water, especially in for irrigation purpose, right? For watering our fields, agricultural fields. So that is one part, and one part of it is related to the conservation of water, and especially for conservation of water, water harvesting system, that is also going to be discussed in this video. Okay, so let's start with it now. Now let's talk about the importance of irrigation in a country like India, right, where agriculture is of so much importance, that our economy itself is called as agrarian economy. That means the economy of India is to a great extent dependent on agriculture, right? Total agricultural production, and some other occupations are also there which are dependent on agriculture. What is irrigation now? Irrigation is it refers to the process of watering of the agricultural plants or the crops through you can say various ways, like wells, tube wells, canals, etc. So from the point of view of sustained agricultural production, to get a sufficient amount of agricultural production and all-round development, water is the most precious resource which we should have, and that's why irrigation is important in India, and especially in India, why it becomes more important, because of these reasons. Number one is there is always an uncertainty in the amount of rainfall which we receive by the mainly the source of rainfall is monsoon, right? So always there is uncertainty whether it will come at proper time or not, in what amount it will be received, the rainfall will be received in different areas. So the second point is uneven distribution of rainfall. Somewhere it is received very less, somewhere it is too much, right, that it may cause flood. Okay, then third point is the crop requirements, because agriculture is the main occupation of the people here. So the different crops are grown, right? The entire year we have some or the other crops in the fields, and all these crops need water at different time. It's not that whenever we get rainfall, that is the time when the crop needs water. So all the crops which we are growing here in India, they need water at different times. So how to provide water at that particular time when it needs water? For that purpose, we should have certain means of irrigation ready with us, so that whenever that crop needs water, we can provide water to it. So that is one thing. Then next point is nature of soil. In India, being such a vast country, we are getting different types of soil in different parts. Okay, so the nature of soil is also, you will find it is seen differently in different parts, where on one side you will find the black soil holds water for a long time. It doesn't allow water to seep down so easily. But on the other side you will find the sandy soil, right? Sandy soil or the red soil, they don't hold the water for long. As you will provide water, it seeps down easily within seconds. So again, the nature of soil is also important, and that makes the irrigation facilities to be provided more. This makes the importance of irrigation facilities more important. Then the next point is to utilize river water effectively. We are having several rivers flowing through our country, so we can use that water effectively for providing irrigation for to the fields. Keeping all these things in view, we can say that the importance of irrigation, at least in our country, is too much. Now, what are the main, you can say, the means of irrigation? Especially children, you can categorize this into two types. Okay, one is related to the conventional means of irrigation. The other is related to the modern means of irrigation. Now, based on the availability of surface and groundwater, relief, soils, climatic conditions, different means of irrigation are used in India. And these are basically wells, canals, tube wells and tanks. These all are the conventional means of irrigation. That means these have been in use since long time. Now the next is well. The first means of irrigation is well. What is a well? You all must have heard about it, or you must have seen a well. Well is actually a small hole dug in the surface of earth to get water from it, okay, from the subsoil for irrigation and for other purposes also. Earlier wells were used for different purposes. Now the use of well has become less, especially it is limited to provide water for irrigation. Usually depth of water table does not exceed, in this case, beyond 15 meters. Okay. So within that reach, if the water is present in the underground, so that can be taken out easily by well. This well irrigation is confined mainly to the alluvial plains, where because of the soft nature of the soil, right, well can easily be dug. If you compare this with the hilly regions or the plateau region in the south, you will find these areas are rocky regions, right? So in rocky area, it will be very difficult to dig out for the construction of well. Okay, that's why the alluvial plains are the best area for wells. And the yield of crops from the land after irrigation is considerably high. Next is wells are dug in the middle of the area generally to be irrigated, so that the water which is taken out, that can be supplied, that can be taken to the different parts of the field easily. And generally that part where the well is dug, that is a little higher than the surrounding agricultural fields. Then areas where well irrigation is practiced include especially Haryana, Punjab, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, UP, then even West Bengal, right, Bihar. This entire stretch of northern plains is actually known for the well irrigation. Clear? Now let's see the advantages and disadvantages of well irrigation. Wells, basically, first of all, advantages. Wells can be dug at a very low cost, right? It is one of the cheapest means of irrigation, which is well within the means of, you can say, by the poor farmers also it can be maintained, right? Next is the oxen or any other animals which are kept for plowing the land. They can be utilized for drawing out the water from the well, right? So in that case, no extra cost is involved then, right? So it becomes easy for the farmer. Then by the use of pumps and tube wells, water can be lifted even from great depths. So that is again one point you can write in the case of advantages. Next is disadvantages. Wells depend on underground water, right? And the underground water varies. In different parts you will find the water table varies. This is the reason wells are not so successful. That means not so successful means it is more, you can say, in practice, right? This well irrigation is in more practice in especially the northern plains of India. But the other regions where the water table level has gone down, or it is a rocky area, there the well irrigation becomes quite difficult. Okay, then it is difficult to dig well also. So in stony or rocky areas, it is going to be very expensive if you want to dig out a well. Then the traditional wells dry up due to the over withdrawal of water, because suppose a well has been dug, right, and from that a lot of water is being taken out again and again and again, and generally the wells, these traditional wells which have been built since long time, so that gets dry after some time. Okay, moreover it causes the lowering down of the water table also. Then if we want to use, suppose the last point of the advantages, if you take it in that way, if we want to use any pumping set over the wells to take out water, for that purpose also you can say the electricity is required, and the farmers will have to spend money for that. Okay, so it will be extra burden over the farmers. So this is actually, these are the disadvantages. One more point you can say in this case, is that the wells, suppose the water is provided from one point, okay, from the almost the portion where the well has been dug out. From there the water is provided to the different parts of the fields. Water is not having that much pressure, right? So what happens then? Till the last part of the field, right, till the end part of the field, the water rarely reaches by itself. So it is, some manual labor is required to make it possible for water to reach to the to all the parts of the field. That's why well irrigation becomes actually these days it has become less in use. Okay, now the next one is the tube wells, right? Tube well is actually just very similar to wells, but it is not a big opening. It is just a deeper, you can say, a well which is dug normally is not of that depth, but tube wells are dug very deep. Generally, it is crossing 20 to 30 meters, okay, in depth. And from there, the water is lifted up with the help of pumping set or power driven pumps. And this water, when it is taken out, this is actually coming with a great force. So the ideal conditions basically for the drilling of the tube wells are, number one is availability of plentiful water at great depths, that is the water table should be within that limit. Okay. Next is level land and soft soil for tube wells to be actually established there. The land should be level land and soft soil, and it should be surrounded with agricultural fields where the water can be used for the irrigation purpose. Then next is availability of regular cheap electricity. That is again one basic requirement. Either electricity or the pumping set which is working there, it needs some fuel. Okay, so it becomes expensive. As compared to well, it is more expensive. Then the main areas where tube wells are used are especially the western states, western side of the northern plains of India, and which are basically, it includes the northern plains and especially in those also the states in our Punjab, Haryana and Rajasthan, right? To some extent Bihar and West Bengal also, but basically it is commonly seen in Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, to some extent only the Gujarat, Western UP. Okay, this is the area known for tube well irrigation. Now what are the advantages and disadvantages of tube well irrigation? Let's talk about the advantages first. Number one is it is an independent source of irrigation. Yes, it does not depend on anything, right? So it is totally independent source of irrigation. Number two is it brings up clean water from underground, right? So there is no such problem of pollution, right? Polluted water is not there in that case. It is totally clean water which is coming out from underground. Number three is it can irrigate large area of agricultural land, because water is also coming out with great force, so it goes with a lot of force to different parts of the agricultural land. So a larger area can be irrigated with the help of this. Next is it is easier to bring up large amount of water in a short period of time. It saves time also. So in this case you will find no manual labor is required, right? And with the help of that pumping set, the water is coming out with a great force. In very short period of time, large amount of water is required, which is coming out within a short period of time, and with great force it is coming out, so it irrigates a large area quite easily. Then it is a perennial means of irrigation as it is drilled up to permanent water table. And moreover children, last but not the least, one very important advantage of it is tube wells are a very reliable source, right? How you can say that? Because especially in the drought affected areas where the water table is the only means of you can say source of providing water, right? Fresh water. So in those areas tube wells provide water for long period of time. It does not get affected by the surrounding climatic conditions, because it takes out water from deep inside. So it is more reliable during that time when the normal wells don't work and the tanks get dry. The rivers also are not having much water. At that time, tube wells provide sufficient amount of water. Okay. Then what about disadvantages? Excessive use of tube wells can be one of the main reasons behind the depletion of groundwater table. Next is it is useless. So, sometimes what happens when we have got it constructed there and we have actually drilled the pipe there to get water from deep inside. After that we find that the water which is coming out, that is brackish. What is brackish? Brackish means it has got the salty water mixed with several minerals and the salt. So that water becomes useless for us, because the reason is that water neither it can be used by us for drinking purpose or for our daily uses, nor it can be used for irrigation purpose. So that entire expense goes waste. Then next is it is expensive, as it requires continuous supply of electricity, either electricity or in some cases the fuel like petrol, diesel and all. So in both cases it is more expensive. Next is the canal. Third source of irrigation is canal. Now basically the canals are, India has actually, because India has got several streams flowing through the especially the northern plains of India. So India has one of the world's largest canal system, stretching over more than 1 lakh kilometers. The irrigation canals basically provide water from the river or from any, suppose, dams or the reservoir to those places where the water is required. Suppose in certain parts of the agricultural fields where the water is required, there these canals carry this water. So basically the northern plains are the regions where this is mostly used. Okay. Now the canals are also of two types. Again, this is an important point under this. There are two types of canals. One is inundation canal. Okay, inundation, and the next one is perennial canal. Now, what is inundation canal? These canals are taken out directly from the rivers without constructing any barrage or any dam, right? So such canals use excess water of the rivers at the time of floods. During floods, during the rainy season, what happens? The rivers overflow, right? They have a lot of water. So that extra water is taken through these inundation canals to the fields, right? And because they use extra water, especially during rainy season when the rivers are in flood, so they provide water only during certain period of time only. Understood? Inundation canals only provide water during certain period of time, not throughout the year. And as the beds of these canals are at a higher level than those of the rivers, so they get supply of water only when the rivers are in flood. So as they only work during the flood, right, when the rivers are under flood, or you can say during the rainy season, these canals, that is why, have very limited use. But as compared to this, if you see the other one is perennial canals. Perennial, the term is perennial. Perennial means it provides water throughout the year. Now what about these canals? These canals are taken out from the perennial rivers by constructing barrage over them, or by constructing dams or any reservoirs over them, right, to regulate the flow of water throughout the year. So they can draw water throughout the year and irrigate large areas. It's not dependent on the floods or the rainy season. And within India, you will find most of the canals which are found, right, are under this category, perennial type. Now, canal irrigation basically is practiced more and more in the northern plains again. And that too in the, you can say, starting from Punjab, right, Haryana, then Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra, Rajasthan, Jammu Kashmir to some extent, right, and in the northeast also to certain extent you will find it is used. Otherwise, basically the northern plains is the most important area for canal irrigation. Now let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of canals. First, advantages. The rainfall deficiency in some areas is made up by canals taken out from the perennial rivers. Right? This is one thing. Second thing is that the arid regions like Rajasthan, a part of Haryana, Western Haryana, and a part of Gujarat, these canals have proved to be boon, as a result of which, sandy patches, or you can say the areas where no crops could be seen, are yielding good agricultural harvests since the time when the canals have been constructed. Next is, canal irrigation has enabled Punjab and Haryana to be called as the granary of the country and nucleus of the green revolution. Next is, major parts of Tamil Nadu enjoy rainfall during winter season, while the summer seasons it doesn't get any rain. Okay, summers are dry. So irrigation is needed in summers to make up the lack of rainfall, and for that the canal irrigation provides a solution. So these are the important points for canals. What about the disadvantages now? At certain places, children, where the perennial unlined canals flow. Unlined means not cemented. So where it is constantly flowing at the ground level and between the raised high banks, the water table may reach the surface. That becomes harmful, because the water table level rises up there. Okay, it reaches to the surface and make the, you can say, earlier the soil which was very fertile and which could be used for cultivation, now that entire soil, that entire area becomes waterlogged, right? Waterlogged area where water actually is found for maximum period of time, and that makes that soil to become totally infertile after certain period. Complete saturation of soil with water may give rise to swamps. So development of swamps. Number two is that will make all the nutrients to get mixed with water and to get down, actually to seep down along with water to the lower levels, and the alkaline salts come up on the surface as a result of this. So all these things result into the productivity of the soil to go down, thus making it infertile. Instead of making an area more fertile, more productive for agricultural crops, it is making the area infertile in this manner in certain cases. Okay. Next is, due to waterlogging, the capacity of soil to absorb water decreases. So a few centimeters of rainfall in excess of normal covers of the land with a sheet of rainwater, which in the absence of proper drainage ruins the standing crops and houses and even stored food grains and fodder. So that again causes harm to the entire area. Not only the crops, not only to the agricultural fields, but also the food grains which are stored there and the fodder, all that is getting affected. Now the next one is tank, and basically these are called as irrigation tanks. Tanks refer to a small bund of earth, or you can say depression on the earth, or the stones built across a stream to impound water, which is then led through narrow channels to the cultivated fields. So tank irrigation basically is in practice in peninsular India, including Maharashtra, Gujarat and all, right? Now this tank constitutes a special feature of irrigation in Deccan because of the following reasons. Let's see the reasons. Number one is that the rivers of Deccan are not snow-fed rivers. Okay, these are seasonal, right? They depend on rainwater. Number two, there are many streams which become torrential during the rainy season, but they get dry during the dry season. So the irrigation is required for the agricultural fields. And the tank, when we are talking of the peninsular region, why the tank is the most used method for irrigation? Because see, for the construction of canal, we need soft soil, because canal has to be constructed, the land has to be dug. Okay, so if it is rocky area, it will be very expensive, right? Second thing is, leveling of the land becomes also difficult there. So this is one point. Second thing is wells. Wells, again the similar thing is there. Well is mostly found in those areas where the land can easily be dug out, and so the soft soil areas are the best suited for well irrigation. But when we talk about tank irrigation, for tank irrigation always the rocky area is most suitable, because in peninsular region, just now we were talking of the same thing, rivers are seasonal, okay, so the other means of irrigation are not so successful, but the tank can work, because these tanks are natural depressions over the rocky area. Certain depressions are there which are filled by water during the rainy season, and that works as tank. So this is how the tanks are most used. And you know, when water is there in the tank, the surface below water is totally rocky, so it is not going to absorb water so easily, right? It will hold water for a long time. So these are the conditions, these are the things why in peninsular India the tank irrigation is you can say mostly used by the people. Now what are the advantages of tank irrigation? In the uneven rocky plateaus of peninsular India where rainfall is highly seasonal, tank irrigation is useful, right? Number two, in the large stretches of Indian plateau, due to hard rocky terrain, wells and canals are difficult to construct. Just now I said the same thing, okay? So only tank irrigation is feasible. Next is tank irrigation is highly significant in storing the abundant rainwater, what would otherwise flow out and go away, right? It would get waste. So that water is held with the tank. What are the disadvantages now? Disadvantages of tanks are very important now. Number one is tanks get silted up soon, because it's an open area. So it gets very easily silted up. So regular desilting is required in that case to maintain a depth. Desilting is required. Otherwise it will get silted up, and ultimately a day will come when it will not be able to hold any water at all. Number two is when the monsoon fails, these tanks go dry, and therefore are dependable source of are not the dependable source of irrigation, because they are totally dependent on rainfall. Next is most of the tanks are non-perennial. Okay, non-perennial means they provide water only during certain period of time and become dry during the winters and summer seasons when water is urgently required for certain crops. At that time water is not present in the tanks. So again that is one big disadvantage. Due to large area, you can say, which is covered and by the tanks, and its shallow depth, huge quantity of stored water either gets evaporated or it sinks underground without being used for the irrigation purpose. Again I am repeating, because of a large area, surface area is too big, right? So water gets evaporated more and more in this case. Understood? So either it can go by evaporation, or it can get actually it can seep down easily. So in both cases water is lost. That means water is lost in what way? For irrigation purpose we are not having any water. Next is tanks occupy a large fertile area. Within an agricultural field, a big area is covered by these tanks only, which otherwise could have been utilized for growing crops. So that is again one disadvantage of it. Next is the lifting of water. It's not just providing water within that tank. How to take out water and to provide water to the all the crops which are present in that field, that becomes a challenge. Okay, so the lifting of water from the tanks and bringing it to the fields is a strenuous and you can say it's very costly task. Keeping all these things in mind, again tank irrigation has got certain strong disadvantages.